Messenger, St. Louis Post-Dispatch columnist. He was on vacation, and before he left on vacation, wrote a very interesting column we're going to get to here. Tony Messenger, St. Louis Post-Dispatch, STLtoday.com, and with us Tuesdays and Thursdays. Good morning, Tony.
Morning, McGraw. Good morning, Kelly. How's
Hi,
everybody
Tony.
doing?
We're doing good. Talk about this story you wrote about, and a lot of people have forgotten about this, and that was there was a tax we passed a couple of years ago to self-tax ourselves that would help with emergency communications in the region and with MetroLink, and you bring up some interesting points about that tax and whatever happened to that money.
Yeah, it was the E911 tax, and it was brought to my attention after I wrote another in my continuing series of columns about why St. Louis County appears to be standing in the way from MetroLink, the city, the county, and St. Clair all working together to communicate and bring improved safety to our transit line. And the biggest thing that this column had focused on a couple of weeks ago was the fact that they're still not talking on the same radio channel. And there are 50 Metro public safety officers that are still unable to completely do their jobs while they're riding the trains. They can do their jobs somewhat in the city, somewhat in St. Clair, but not in St. Louis County, because until Bob McCullough steps down, they've been threatened with of committing a crime of impersonating a police officer, even though they're all post-certified and everything else. It's part of this political battle between John Belmar and Steve Stinger and John Nation. And so after I wrote that column, I got a couple of calls from people that said, there's no reason why they can't solve the communication problem and get all the radios on the same frequency. We passed a tax to do that, and I didn't know that. It was before I was here, but it was the E911 tax. Skip Monge, who is an alderman in Town and Country and formerly the mayor, I believe, of that city, and a former county councilman, is one of the people who let me know about it. He said that's what this tax does. The Emergency Communications Commission in the county, and John Belmar is on, the police chief in the county is on that commission. Their job is to deal with these sorts of issues, and that's what they've been doing for the last decade, is helping the various cities and counties and various entities, emergency entities, first responders, get their communication so that they can talk to each other when there's emergencies and that sort of thing. And they've been doing this year after year after year. They know how to do it. And so my question in the column, and Skip Mons raised it, is why hasn't John Belmar and MetroLink and the city and St. Clair gotten together, used this money, and fixed the problem? And
so you got no answer?
No answer. The county's answer continues to be, we're working on it. We're working on it. It's going to take money. It's technical. There's problems. It turns out that the commission, the Emergency Communications Commission, has discussed this idea. It's been raised to them. They wouldn't make the people available for an interview for me. They answered a couple of email questions and basically said, we're working on it. But it's been more than a year now since the various public entities that are in charge of Metro Transit signed a memorandum of understanding, and key to that, they all agree that one of the keys to improve safety on MetroLink, by the way, there was another shooting last night at the Del Mar Loop station, one of the keys to improving safety is getting all of these various entities to be able to communicate on the radio. Right now, if you're a Metro safety officer, let's assume that you're actually doing the job, so you're somewhere in the city or St. Clair County, because if you're in the county, they're not going to try to solve crime because they're afraid they're going to go to jail. So let's say you're in the city, you're in St. Clair County, you're a Metro safety officer, you see a crime being committed. You have to go call on the phone 911 like a citizen. You can't pick up your radio and call the county cop or the city cop or the St. Clair sheriff's deputy down the street or on the train because they're not on the same channel right now. It's unbelievable and they have the technology and the money to solve this problem. There's $30 million in the E911 account as I speak.
Yeah, you mentioned in the column there's $37 million in the account, and they generate about $15 million a year with this tax?
Yeah, one of the controversies to this tax when it was passed is that there was no sunset on it. And so this tax is going on. They've built the 911 centers they said they were going to do. They got to where the various municipalities, when they respond to an emergency on across borders or whatever, and they're helping each other out in mutual aid, they fixed those problems. They found a way to communicate. They found a way to integrate ambulances and hospitals and even highway type equipment and people like that who sometimes are involved in emergency response. They found a way for all of these folks to communicate on the same sorts of channels when they need to. They haven't yet solved the MetroLink problem. And as I have indicated pretty clearly in a variety of columns, I think it's pure politics.
Tony Messenger, it's all at stltoday.com and with us every Tuesday and Thursday. Tony, have a good week. Thanks.
Good to talk.